So imagine this. You've given everything to a relationship, riding the ups and downs with unwavering dedication. Then, out of nowhere, the rug is pulled out from under you as your partner, who's been avoiding commitment, suddenly pulls away. It's a nightmare scenario that many people fear even before entering a relationship. But what happens when enough time passes that the avoidant individual finally feels the impact of your absence? Today, we're going to explore exactly that. We'll also dive into how you can heal your heart and possibly reconnect, but only if it's the healthy choice for you. First off, it's crucial to understand that avoidant individuals often fear commitment because they're scared of losing themselves or becoming too dependent or vulnerable. This fear stems from their childhood experiences, which then influences their present and future relationships. When avoidant individuals feel overwhelmed by commitment, they tend to hyperfocus on their need for space, freedom, independence, and autonomy. They see these things as safety measures. If they're in a relationship, they're often juggling their feelings and fears. If their attachment wounds are deep, they might feel the need to pull away to avoid feeling vulnerable like they did in their childhood. This is why avoidant individuals might take you for granted. It's not because they want to hurt you, but because they prioritize their survival needs. They see themselves as safer the more space they have because it means they don't have to be vulnerable around others. Once they've created this space, they often feel an initial sense of relief. They tell themselves stories about why they didn't need the person, why it wouldn't have worked out anyway, and how they can now focus on their freedom. They'll often find flaws in the person as a coping mechanism to reassure themselves that breaking up was the right thing to do. For the first few months, avoidant individuals are good at distracting themselves and numbing their feelings. But after 3 or 4 months, they start missing the person. They start reflecting on the relationship more objectively and begin to miss the good things, like the security and comfort of having a partner, the supportiveness, empathy, and kindness. In the long term, I've seen avoidant individuals struggle with breakups the most. They long for the things that the person brought into their lives, but they often feel helpless to meet these needs themselves. They also feel terrified and helpless to reach out to the person and be vulnerable again. So, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and they'll keep trying to distract themselves with creature comforts like food, movies, or video games. Alright, so here's the deal. People often find comfort in their own ways, but they usually end up feeling stuck and sometimes even depressed after a breakup, especially from a long-term relationship. It's tough for them to meet their needs that their partner was fulfilling because they're usually at a loss on how to do it themselves. If someone was making them feel supported, seen, cared for, loved, they might struggle to nourish themselves in the same way. They might meet their basic needs, but they're not nourishing themselves the way a relationship can. This often leads to a cycle where people think they should just wait forever for their ex to come back. The thing is, the person who's moved away will rarely reach out, and if they do, it'll be very indirect and hard to read. They might send a meme or a picture of something, and that's their way of trying to rebuild the connection. But that's as vulnerable as it gets, and it makes it really hard to rebuild a connection or have honest conversations if they're not ready to be vulnerable yet or if they're moving at a snail's pace. So, what can you do to heal from this? First, it's really important to maintain no contact, at least for the first few months. This isn't a strategy to get the person back, but rather a strategy for you to focus all your energy on yourself. Start by identifying the needs that your ex was meeting for you in your life. Even if they were inconsistent, if you stayed in the relationship long enough, there were certain needs that they were meeting. If you can identify those needs and learn to nourish them yourself, that's a really important first step. Second, we all tell ourselves stories after a breakup. We say things like, "I wasn't smart enough," or "I wasn't interesting enough." What are your stories? Write them down and dare to question them. Can you really know these stories are objectively true? A lot of times, we carry old wounds and painful perceptions about ourselves from childhood, and we project that old stuff onto the present. Lastly, we often get stuck focusing on the problem instead of the solution. When we don't have a plan for the next stage of our life, it's easier for our brain to go back to what's old and familiar than to invest in what's new and in the future for us. So, map out a plan for the next stage of your life. Focus on different areas of your life that you can work on, improve, nourish, and care for yourself. These are 3 easy steps you can start with. It will definitely help ease that initial sting of the breakup, And the more we focus on ourselves from the inside out, the faster we will build momentum towards healing. If you're enjoying this channel and these videos, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell, give me a thumbs up if you want to. I would really appreciate it. And if you hit the notification bell, you won't miss any of the daily content I put on here 7 days a week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is Dark Psychology World Channel.